Hey everybody, Fetty here. One thing I do a lot when I want something to end up with that real dark, rustic, kind of aged and weathered look is I use that still wool and vinegar cocktail. Now I didn't invent that, I'm like everybody else. I learned about it somewhere along the way, but I've used it a lot and I've had good results with it, and it's pretty predictable what it's going to do. I just like using it. I use it primarily with oak because I guess the effects with oak to me are the most dramatic. Now what I'm going to do today is I'm going to do an experiment with some different kinds of woods. I have oak, wormy chestnut, alder, cherry, pine, maple, and walnut. And some of these I've never put that on. I'm kind of curious what it's going to do. So I thought today I'll just slap some of that on there and we'll just see what happens. Now this batch that I'm using today is not fresh. I'd probably make a new batch if I were on a brand new project, but for the purpose of this experiment, I think that it'll be just fine. Now when I made this batch, I let the still wool soak for, I don't know, 6 or 7 days. Then I pulled the still wool out and it set for another, I don't know, 5 or 6 days before I actually used it. You can see the result of that batch on my Gentleman's Survival Kit build that's posted on my channel. At this point, that batch has been sitting for another 2 or 3 weeks, so I don't really know what's going to happen. But we'll slap some on there and we'll just see what we end up with. So here's the oak. This is what we started with, and that's what it ended up like. And this is the piece, if you noticed in the time sequence, I actually put some on, then I wiped it off just to experiment around a little bit. Now what surprises me is this didn't darken up as much as I am used to it doing, so maybe that batch is a little bit weak at this point. Usually what happens is this oak will take on this purple hue and you'll be wigged out by it at first. You'll think everything's going to end up purple, but when you sand it just a little bit and then put a clear coat on it, it darkens back up to about something like this. The wormy chestnut was really dramatic. That's what it started with, and that's how it ended up. It turned it almost black, which it definitely looks aged and weathered and almost charred. So there's that, and there's that. The alder reacted pretty good. It's pretty dark. There's what it started with, and that's what it ended up with. The alder has almost a brown color to it. The cherry surprised me. The cherry turned out really dark, black, almost kind of dirty looking. I don't know that I would use this on cherry if I were gonna do a project. There's the cherry, and there's what it did. It's kind of like I said, kind of dirty looking. The pine surprised me because it didn't really do much at all. It kind of maybe yellowed it up a little bit, but I thought the pine would really react, but it really didn't. And again, the pine looks kind of dirty and filthy, but it definitely looks aged. Looks like it's been sitting out in the yard for a while. The maple I didn't think would do much at all, but it actually did. It has more of a gray hue to it. So you can kind of see that and that. It's a pretty nice color. I don't know exactly what I would use it for or use it on, but it actually did react pretty good. And finally, the walnut. I didn't expect much out of it because walnut's really dark anyway, but it just made it even darker. So there's kind of what we started with, and there's what we ended up with. Now what I found is that stuff will continue to react until all the moisture evaporates off the surface of the wood. Now I get asked sometimes if my wood's going to smell like vinegar, and yes, it's going to smell like a summer's eve for a while, but that fades off after a few hours. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this video, maybe learned something, but more importantly, I hope you got some of your own ideas. As always, if you like my videos, remember, give me a thumbs up, leave me some comments, and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.